All right. So to begin our interview today, can you first just tell me your name, the industry you work in, and your job title right now?
My name is Skip Masters, Ralph Skip Masters. Job title is Procurement Advisor. Industry I'm in is government contracting.
Okay. First, have you ever been in a situation where your values were challenged at work? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yes, I've been in a situation like that before. The way I handled that is I confronted a person directly and told them I was uncomfortable with the situation and hope that we never have to encounter it again. But mainly the way I dealt with it was I went directly to that person and had a one-on-one conversation with them.
Okay, so went directly, had a one-on-one conversation with them. Was it resolved?
Yes,
Okay.
resolved in the way that I was sure that uh, that person wouldn't do that again.
Okay. Okay. Um, What advice would you give to someone that is newly starting in a manager position?
Okay, I think probably the most important thing, or one of the most important things, is setting the expectation. You know, if you can get your employee to understand what's expected of them, then you can also allow a certain expectation from my behavior as well. So setting the expectation that way, you lay the groundwork for what you expect, and there should not be any discrepancies if you've already set the groundwork and understood what needs to happen up front. But people are people, and there will always have some challenges. But the main thing is setting the expectation from both parties.
Okay, and so once you set these expectations, just to follow up on that, um, what do you do when those expectations aren't met, or how do you deal with that situation?
Yeah, and that I think dovetails into the underperforming part of that, and it's it becomes a series of one-on-one meetings, understanding why the result is what it was, and how can we fix it? How can we change it? Do I need to, as a manager, participate more, or should I let them kind of feel their way through it? And so it becomes a scenario where I think communication is going to be key. Understanding what's expected, and normally when someone underperforms is because it's the expectation wasn't communicated right, maybe, and so the expectation is not what it should be. So you just have to get back and make that adjustment.
Okay, so just basically continue to communicate with them clearly, define the expectations. Okay. Um, And so yes, like you said, that could also be for underperformers. Have you ever had someone even after that initial correction still continue to underperform?
I've experienced that before. And what ends up happening, what I discovered is people, it's easy to fall back into your old habits, and that old habit was what was leading to the underperforming. And so we had to just kind of adjust how the person was thinking about, again, what their expectation was. So, yeah.
Okay. And then also another follow up on that. When you're setting expectations for employees, is this purely just based on their role, or are you catering expectations to different people with different strengths, or is there any other like consideration when you're deciding what those expectations are?
Yeah, more times than not, it becomes individualized, because people behave a certain way differently, learn differently, and so we try to manage based on that person's abilities and what's comfortable for them. It's kind of like coaching a basketball team. You can't teach, you can't coach or teach everybody the same way because everybody's different. So therefore, the management style has to be adaptable like that too. I mean, because you, as opposed to this person, you learn differently, you behave differently, and so my management of this person is going to be different from the next person because the people are different.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me about a time where you've had to either make an unpopular decision or deliver like an unpopular message to someone, and how you went about doing that?
Yes. As a small business advisor, I encounter that on a regular basis where I have business owners that are just starting and they are haven't done all of the due diligence that they need to confirm that they're making the right decision. And so I've had to help them in their thinking in that maybe you should rethink this business plan or this strategy or this product or service you're going to offer because maybe you don't have enough background in there. Maybe the customers that you're reaching are not ready for you or they don't buy what you sell. Okay, and so when we encounter that, I have to share with them that maybe this is not the right thing to do, or maybe not the right time to start this business. Okay, and so I have that conversation on a regular basis with small business clients.
And do you have any tips for doing that? Like how you, deliver this
Yeah,
to people?
yeah. One way that I found is effective is to allow them to find the answer. And how I do that is lead them down a particular path so that I'm hoping that they will find the answer to the question. And so it becomes a task oriented thing I want them to do as the counselor advisor. We'll talk about, well, maybe we should rethink this business idea. And with that, why don't you consider doing this task or that task? And when you complete those things, come back to me, and then we could go from there based on the fact that you've taken a couple of steps that I advise you to do. So you're making a better decision about this business.
Okay, so you get them to find the answer. You lead them to that conclusion by basically getting them to do some more research and due diligence. So you lead them to coming up with that same realization,
Yeah.
which I can see how that would be a lot easier to stomach than you telling them, that they need to change course.
Yeah, and that's important because on the other hand, I have a lot of clients that need hand holding, and they want me to almost babysit them, and I'm not going to do that. That doesn't do you any good if I'm going to have to babysit you in starting your business. Okay, so if it's your business, these are the things you need to think about. And by the way, you can find that answer if you go here. Okay, or the next question I have for you, you can find that over there. So go find those answers and then come back to me, and then we'll go from there. But I can't do that for you. I tell them all the time, I'm not going to do this for you. I'll help you, but I'm not going to do it for you.
Okay, so yeah, you're also encouraging their independence,
Yeah.
in problem solving. Okay, good. Can you tell me about a time where you've had some cross-functional collaborations, or had to deal with different teams or different job functions, and how you dealt with that?
Yeah. Years ago, when I worked for Bell Helicopter as the small business administrator, my job was to interact with our procurement people, the purchasers and buyers, and try to recommend to them that they should choose a certain business to do business with, a contract with me. So my job was to interact with him as best I can, make that buyer understand that this particular supplier that I'm bringing to you is qualified to do that, and I'd like for you to consider giving them a chance at this procurement opportunity. And so procurement, administration, a lot of different departments have requirements that they have to spend X number of dollars each year with each individual type of business or category. And so that requires me then to go interact with people within within the company that may not necessarily have exposure to the small business environment. So, introduce it that way.
Okay. And so when you're dealing with these different departments and these different small businesses, um, how are you determining if you communicate to them differently or what their different needs might be?
Ask me that question
Does that make
again.
sense? So, you're dealing with these different, buyers and sellers, and some of these are, small businesses, which I'm sure have different experiences, backgrounds, and stuff
Right.
than the other people you're dealing with. So I guess I was just kind of asking about how you communicate differently to different people, right? If you have any, input on that.
Yeah, and it goes back to different people, i.e., different businesses, have different needs, different goals, different requirements, and so I have to adjust my advising and my counseling to that person's needs and wants in terms of trying to start a small business. And so everyone is different. I have some businesses, people that are similar in business. As an example, the janitorial business is an easy business to get into, but certain people have different beliefs and understanding. They think that if I can just go get a government contract on the janitorial, I've made it. I'm going to get rich, and it doesn't work that way. And so you have to explain that no, it's likely that it may take a year or longer before you actually could win a government contract. So I want you to understand the expectation up front that, hey, this is how I'm going to help you, but the reality of it is it may take a lot longer than you think. And so that may change how you think about whether you want to actually go into this business. Give you another example. The federal government they're notorious for being slow in making payments to the small business owners. And so one of the things I always tell them up front, or at least ask the question, can you afford to pay yourself and your employees for 60 or 90 days before you get your first government contract, before you get your first government payment? Can you manage your business that long? And so we say carry. Can you carry the government for 90 days before you get your first check? And when you say that to them, then a light comes on. Well, I hadn't thought about that. So, well, that's why I'm here as an advisor, to let you know that the reality is going into government contracting is tough, but you need to understand that it may take them a long time to pay you. Do you have the resources and the money to maintain your business until you get paid? And so that helps their thinking also.
Okay. So again, you're kind of just, seeing what their expectations are, and you're, kind of guiding them to understand, the realities of the business.
Right.
Okay. That's great. All right. Thank you again for your time. That was a great interview.
All right. Thank you.